All right, well, let me, if you're gonna do it from right there, I'm gonna move this trash out of the way.
Oh, no, they can't see it.
I can see it.
Oh.
I can see it.
Okay. We are now live, and we have, I'm sorry, what's your name?
John.
Jonah here. So thanks, Joan, for joining us today. We should be live on Facebook here today, and popular because Legionnaires Disease is actually a illness that we think in the state of Illinois actually starting to feel that there are more cases than what's really reported. Legionnaires Disease is the symptoms of acquiring that is sort of like Pontiac fever. So that would be very much like even coronavirus, I guess. It comes with a cough, and it has some basic symptoms that are very similar to flu-like. And so what typically is happening, we think in Illinois and across the country, is that Legionnaires is being misdiagnosed, that actually the people that are passing away from it tend to be the elderly, and they don't, and when they do pass away, they're diagnosed as dying of the flu. So it's flu-like symptoms. So a lot of people are like, well, that's what they have. However, if you take a look at some of the cases that we've had, specifically in the home in Peoria, that's a hospital there, and it has Legionnaires in the plumbing system there, and they can't seem to get rid of it. This is a hospital that's designed for the vets. It's a VA hospital, and the VA hospital has old plumbing. So the number one thing that we like to point out for people, in fact, I'll list it out here, is to check through your plumbing. If you have a home, and I'm going to try to make this more for residential people because a lot of us have homes here in the Chicagoland area or Barrington area. If you have a home that has specific plumbing pipes, so in this particular case in Peoria, they have old iron pipe. These are galvanized plumbing. So galvanized plumbing is not really recommended for homes anymore. It was used up until I think about the 50s and 60s. It's still available in the plumbing aisles, but excuse me, plumbers do not use that on a regular basis. Today, almost all homes are either done in PVC, PEX tubing, or copper. Copper in our Chicagoland area is the most popular. But if you have a home that dates back a little bit before the 60s, you probably want to check to see if your plumbing actually has galvanized plumbing. So that's the number one thing. Galvanized plumbing is going to be our number one concern that we look at. If you do have galvanized plumbing, the reason why that is galvanized plumbing absorbs and sort of adheres to the organics in the water. So as a result, organics like iron or calcium sit inside the plumbing pipe, and the food for Legionnaires is actually in that material, in iron. So part of the concern would be is if you have this galvanized plumbing, to have your water tested for Legionnaires, and I think that it's going to run around $200. So you'd want to have that tested on a regular basis. What causes it, though, is this bacteria is very common. It's in almost everyone's water. So when we have chlorine in the water, chlorine usually kills all the food matter that's in the plumbing pipes. However, in cases like this Peoria, Vernon Hills, Chicago, where we've had all these different outbreaks, this is usually as a result of water sitting stagnant and sitting in plumbing pipes, and it has a food source of which to eat it. So stagnant water is the second big thing that we want to look for. So first, of course, is galvanized plumbing or older plumbing. The second thing that we look for is organic matter built up inside the plumbing. And then third, do we have stagnant water? So stagnant water is where we don't have recirculation of water. And recirculation of water is very important. So a home that has, let's say, one person living in it, and they never use, say, the basement bathroom, and the water's sitting in that old pipe, it actually allows that bacteria sits there and can start to grow, that's in the water, start to grow and back up through the plumbing system and get into the home. So I'll draw a quick diagram here. So we have a typical home here, and we have water coming in, and you have a basement, and if this is the bottom of the home, and you have plumbing that actually comes into the house and goes up to different fixtures. If you have a bathroom or a laundry room, or if you have a sink down in the basement and it never gets used, then bacteria can start to grow in there. So if you do have galvanized plumbing, we urge you to usually turn the water on and let it run every few days, just to sort of flush the water. Water also, Legionnaires also needs a specific temperature to grow at. So it's usually warmer water. So as you bring in cooler water, it sort of flushes it out and it doesn't have anything to live on. So we urge you, if you do have galvanized plumbing or a lot of iron in your plumbing pipes, then you'd want to run the water, especially in these extra faucets that would maybe be downstairs, or in a bedroom that you don't use, or excuse me, a bathroom upstairs you don't use. Basically go to every faucet you have and let the water run. Do that about once a week would be a great thing to do. If you have water heaters, this is the real concern now. If you have galvanized plumbing and you have a water heater is the perfect temperature to grow bacteria. So today, plumbers are getting taught to actually turn up the water heaters and install a specific mixing valve above the water heater to blend cold and hot water. So literally we can kill the bacteria in a water heater. Unfortunately, the way that we all set water heaters today, we do not have we're not killing the bacteria in it. So one thing you can do is to have a return recycle loop. So that would be at the kitchen sink or at the master bath, where we recirculate hot water. So it's never sitting stagnant in a water heater. A lot of people who have, let's call it, some people that might have a home and their kids have moved out and they have galvanized plumbing and nobody's really using the house. You got to look at that like that's a real concern. You have to look at, wait a second. We used to have 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the house. Now there's 1 or 2 and we barely use a bathroom. We might live on a private well, so we have a lot of iron in our plumbing pipes. That's the kind of person that I suggest that you really take a look at your home, maybe do a water test and see whether or not you have Legionnaires, especially if you have that iron or what's called galvanized plumbing. That's going to be the most concerning. So when it comes to this Legionnaires, again, a couple things that you want to remember is that it can mask itself as Pontiac fever, and it's very concerning. You want to make sure that you test your water on a regular basis. Some of the facilities, by the way, that have tested positive for this would be a hotel in Chicago. They had a what do you call it? A fountain. They had a fountain that they had just going, and they didn't properly maintain the fountain. And as people walked by the fountain, the mist from the fountain got into their lungs, and they got Pontiac fever, and they got very ill. There's another case in Northwestern University in Chicago. Northwestern hospital system had an individual who was her health was very frail, and what she did was that was because she was going through chemotherapy treatment. And what she decided, while she was there, she died of the flu symptoms. And what ended up happening was the husband was like shocked by this because she was in such good health and they have such a clean hospital. So he had her lungs checked for he had an autopsy performed. And when they checked her lungs, they found Legionnaires in her lungs, which meant that she must have got it from the water in the hospital. They studied the P-trap in the hospital at Northwestern, and they found Legionnaires there. So it's very clear that they had Legionnaires in the plumbing system. Excuse me. In that particular regard, that's a huge building where water sits stagnant for a long period of time, at which point Legionnaires can grow. So they've now installed little faucets at every single faucet in their building to kill Legionnaires. So if you live in Chicago and you have this old plumbing pipe, or you have an older building that has a lot of dead ends to it, that means the plumbing lines have dead ends because there's been remodels in the house or in the big building, then that's a perfect home for this bacteria to grow on. More specifically, a good reason to have a plumber come out and inspect the plumbing of that building. At Northwestern Hospital, they now have to go through a protocol where they're flushing the plumbing pipes, but more importantly, they put these filters on. So again, for your home, looking for quick tips, do a water test. That's the most important thing first and foremost. Take a look at your situation. Do you have it where you have low flow or no flow to certain areas of the home? And if you do, start running that water. on a regular basis, so that your water is being purged through that iron pipe, if that's what you have, or if you have that iron in your water. A lot of people who live on private wells in the Chicagoland area, please listen up, because it's most important to you, because as a water treatment company, we've been to so many homes and we cut open the pipes and we can see this gunk that's inside there, and that gunk is a perfect feeding ground for this bacteria. It's kind of gross, yeah. Dave's face is like you. So again, Legionnaires is actually the reason, for some of you who don't know it, Legionnaires actually was first came out back in, I think it was the 30s, where in fact I have, named after an outbreak in 1976, when people attended the American Legion Conference in Philadelphia and they became ill. This was a large, older building that had old stagnant water. And in that particular case, that was the very first outbreak that was diagnosed as what this Legionella really is. Again, it's a bacteria that sits in the water that has an opportunity to multiply and grow, and it grows when it finds a food source like iron or other organic matter. Also, it grows when you have dead-end plumbing. Dead-end plumbing would be when you basically had a remodel to the house and a plumber didn't cut back the pipe far enough. 18 inches is about what is the maximum, because if you have anything that has a dead end to it, or a faucet that doesn't get used after 18 inches, that's where bacteria can really start to grow. So we really, really recommend that each one of you that live in a house that has iron pipe or this galvanized pipe, to really have a plumber come out and take a look at it. If you need help, you can certainly contact Angel Water. We're here in Barrington. We'd be happy to send a plumber out and help inspect your plumbing. The second concern, if you had that iron in the water, you'd want to make sure that you flush it, and or maybe get a filter system that takes iron out so it doesn't get into the plumbing system and becomes that house or that food source for this bacteria. And so those are some of the main points that we wanted to bring out to you all. How common is it? It is estimated that between 8,000 and 18,000 people were hospitalized each year with Legionella. And again, we think that's a very low number when we start taking a look at the people who actually pass away, who die from having flu-like symptoms. This is sort of like the coronavirus, where you get this, everyone has a very similar, these illnesses all have a very similar pattern to it. So it's hard for a doctor to diagnose it, especially if you're elderly. People end up just saying, well, they passed away, they were old, they caught the flu. So if you're a little bit older, I do recommend that you just always watch your health. Don't forget to take vitamin C. Don't forget to drink a lot of water. I mean, one of the best things that we always teach everybody at Angel Water is hydrate your body. Drink half your weight in ounces a day. Half your weight in ounces of water a day. That's flushing the body, because as you get toxins in your body or these illnesses, you need to have a strong immune system to defend yourself from that. As you can see, it could be corona, it could be common flu, it could be Legionella. So these things can be kicked out of your body if you're healthy. Don't forget to exercise. Don't forget to take your vitamin C. These are all really good things that help actually protect the body. I even read there's a few other over-the-counter meds or vitamins that you might want to take, but these are all very good things that you can do to sort of protect yourself from that situation. Again, if you're a little elderly, if you have water fountains, be a little conscious of it. I mean, we also actually even have sprayers sometimes to actually cool the bodies down. When you look through, a grocery store, grocery stores have these misters that keep the food, moist. So I urge everyone to sort of just be very vigilant first and foremost on being healthy. That's the number one thing. Above all, be healthy, because you never know where you can literally be exposed to something like Legionnaires' disease. So I urge you to really work on your health, drink enough water, keep yourself healthy, and then number two, look out for some of these places where you might be able to run into stagnant water that has an opportunity to grow this bacteria. That said, that's about it for today's issue. Do you have any questions? No? Oh, you won't be on camera. Dave, you got it? You know about any questions? Did anyone type anything in there?
No, I got a couple people waved and said hi, but
All
yeah, I
right.
remember two cases of Legionella. One of them was at Disney World, and one of them was at Great America. Those misters.
Those misters, yeah, Disney World and Great America, Dave said, is a couple places that this has come out. Again, I think that it goes really, and what we're starting to find out here in the health department world, in licensed plumbing world, I should say, is we're finding out that we really think a lot of this is misdiagnosed. People literally get sick, they think it's the flu, but it literally can come from this airborne Legionnaires disease. So yes, Dave, like you said, be very careful with where you go. These companies, they all have to be very, very vigilant with changing over their water so they don't have stagnant water. I mean, this hotel in Chicago has to go through a whole new change of how they handle those fountains. So it's worth really taking a look at. All right, again, this is my name's Drew, the water guru. So I'm happy to have helped you guys today with Legionnaires. If you have any questions, always feel free to call us. You can get a hold of us at 847-382-7800, or you can find us on the web at angelwater.com. Again, we're passionate about making your family and you more healthy. If you need help with that, we are a licensed plumbing company, and we're experts in purifying water. Thank you very much. So
I'm here because I have a whirlpool tub and I have a Kohler steam shower, neither of which have been used.